Hey, thanks for joining me for this conversation about animal communication. And specifically, how do we know when our animals have something to tell us? I'm Joanna Schmidt. I'm an animal communicator. I've been doing this work for about 12 years. And this is one of the most frequently asked questions when I meet people who have never tried this work before and they're really curious, as well as people who have used an animal communicator off and on for years, and they're curious about how to take this work from being a novelty of something that they just do because they're curious to actually being a tool to help them improve their relationship with their animal and deepen their connection ongoing throughout their pet's life. So I believe that there's three primary ways that our animal tries to get our attention, to tell us that they have something to share. And the first is the most obvious, but it's not always the first thing our animal does to get our attention, and that is behavior. So when our animal's behavior changes, obviously, it changes how they are they go from confidently walking into the arena to holding back and maybe not wanting to walk into an arena. Or our dog perhaps is starting to growl or show his teeth at other people or dogs on the trail. Or perhaps our cat friend starts going to the bathroom outside of the litter pan. So this first indicator that our animal has something to say, it's usually pretty obvious. It's alarming at times. And we're like, uh-oh, what's going on with them? And I like to encourage people, the first tool we should reach for when our animal changes behavior drastically like that is get them checked out by your veterinarian. Make sure that there's not something seriously physically in need of veterinary care. And once they get checked out, of course, book a session with an animal communicator and let's unpack it. Let's figure out what they've been trying to tell you for a while. The second way is on a more intuitive level, and it specifically listens for the changes that most of us can feel of what's going on with our animal's emotional world. And this one is obviously more subtle than the physical behavior changes, but usually most of us feel it. We get this inkling that something's going on with Kitty. We kind of get the sense that our dog has been trying to tell us something for a while. It's an intuitive knowing, it's an emotional feeling that we get. And when we do, most of us are pretty quick to dismiss this first warning signal that our animal friend is raising a paw, a fin, a wing to try to get our attention. Say, hey, there's something going on with me. I could use a hand. And we either dismiss it or we let our mind try to figure out what's going on. We let our mind look for cues of what's happening for our animals emotionally. And while I'm a fan of having people try to figure things out on their own, most often we either get it wrong or we get stuck when we're trying to figure out emotions with our mind. And we get stuck or we get it wrong for a couple of reasons. One is we're using our mind to look for heart indicators. We're using our mind to look for feelings. And our mind is really great with practical logic reasoning. Our mind is great for looking for clues of and mapping behavior changes. But our mind is not great for processing and expressing and listening to feeling. And we're also using our mind, looking through our human lens to try to figure out what's happening for our animal's with our animal's emotions. And this is interesting because us humans, we have this habit of thinking that we exist in the center of everything, and therefore everything that we think, that's how everyone else thinks. That's how all the animals are. That's how the rest of the universe is. But our animals, here's a secret. Our animals have these rich inner lives. Our animals are sentient beings. They have their own feelings. They sense their own indicators of pain and imbalance in their own bodies. And they can see and smell and taste things we have no idea exist. And all these factors go into these giant clues that our mind will miss when we're looking for them through our human lens in a mind-centric approach. It's one of the things that's so phenomenal about animal communication. It taps right into the emotions and listens heart to heart, emotionally to emotions, to better understand firsthand what's going on with an animal and what they want to share with you. So when you're getting those first noticings, when you're like, I think there's something going on with Kitty, or perhaps you say to your sweetheart, I think the dog is trying to tell us something. He doesn't like blah, blah, blah. You feel yourself go from that emotional place of curiosity about your animal, and you jump to the mind-centric of trying to figure it out. Book a session. You're going to save yourself a bunch of time, and hopefully your animal's going to be able to tell you what they need without actually dropping into those big behavior changes that can be really challenging for everybody involved. So the third way is connects to the spiritual. A lot of the people that I work with, phenomenal people, they're very intuitive, and they tend to approach their life with their animal really collaboratively, meaning that when there's something going on with their dog or their animal came into their life with some big problem. Say they have a fear of strangers, or they try to bite other dogs, or cats who have separation anxiety. The people who are working with their animals collaboratively, they're doing ongoing work with their animals in that they're both supporting them with something like physical training and learning, and they're also doing a fair amount of spiritual work with the animal, sometimes with flower essences, sometimes with acupressure or acupuncture. And the other thing that sets these folks apart in how they're working with their animal is they approach it collaboratively, meaning that they look for what is in resonance within them that their animal is struggling with. So in the case of the dog who's showing his teeth to strangers on the trail, these people will be looking within their own heart center and their own beingness to the ways that they also perhaps are showing their teeth a little to strangers on the trail, or feel wary or afraid when they meet people on the trail. And that work is profound. It's really deep, and I love supporting it. It's how I work with my own animals, because it allows us to collaborate and team up with our animals, and our inner evolution, our overcoming of these behavior challenges, both for ourselves and for animals, it's so much more graceful. It's so much more easy, and we reach these deeper core issues that are the root of the problem versus just trying to overpower the animal and fix them. So these folks, maybe you're one of them. When our animal is trying to tell us something and we are doing this ongoing work with them, the indicators I like to use is when there's a change in our collaboration. Maybe there's a change in our connection. We may not feel quite as connected with them as we have been. Maybe there's a change in the home, a big change, a new roommate, a new animal moved in. We get a new sweetie. Those big changes usually mean we need to go back to the planning table, the drawing board, and rework how it is we're collaborating with our animal to include this new curveball that's entered the picture. And this third way, there's a quick knowing that usually happens. It's quick, especially for those of you who are intuitive and are working with your animals collaboratively. You'll know really quickly. Something's off, we need to tweak it. That's the first sign. Book a session and regroup, replan. So that's how I see the three primary ways that we know our animal is having something to tell us. If you're curious about me and my work as an animal communicator, check me out on my website. It's joannaschmidt.com. All right, say hi to your animals for me. Talk to you later.